Whom Gods Destroy is, I think, a great episode. And because it's in the third season, some people criticize it as one of the worst. I don't know. This is what I look getting into Star Trek and watching the old series, and occasionally I'll see reviews of it, and more recent ones. It's just this accepted narrative that the third season is so bad, primarily because Spock's brain was in it, which is an episode I enjoy. I know it's stupid, but it's fun. It's not on par with the excellence of Star Trek, as City on the Edge Forever and stuff like that. But it's almost like you're supposed to say certain things about it. It's acceptable tenure, and some of it, as being recent, I wonder if it's just a means by which to somehow trash Star Trek, and a means by which to uplift the current Star Trek, which is pure trash. And we've seen this with other franchises and which is an idiot way all around. You take on a well-established franchise, and then you immediately attack its foundations and its fandom, and this idiot idea that somehow you're going to reach this new audience when you don't have anything to give them either, because you're caught with your pants down, and it turns out that was just a sock in your drawers. So I don't know. I do see elements of that. I don't know if that fully applies, because a lot of these criticisms are pretty old about these Star Trek episodes, but still, it's just a thought. But I think this is a really good one. I think it's sure, it's a cheap episode, but they utilized it very well, and I think Star Trek did that a lot with what they had. You've got your alien planet set, but it's mostly seen outside the window, which is very good. And the sets are, it's the same as they've used in other episodes and whatnot, parts of the ship as well and all that. But, you move stuff around. Hey, it's a new place. But it's a story that's a tragic one and rather sad, and that it's this fallen hero is the villain of the story. And they're revisiting how the Federation dealt with mental illness. You had the previous episode where it was a crazy psychiatrist who was frying people's brains with that nasty chair. And then, Kirk got tortured in it. Well, the chair's back, more or less. And there's even references, and for the purposes of continuity here, before Kirk is tortured again in this chair, there's a little different setup, but he says, yeah, I know what it is. And normally it's a chair to use to soothe people's minds so that they're not prone to their violent tendencies, depending on whatever their disorder is. And all of that. And of course, the main governor of this planet, where it's one of the last facilities to hold criminally insane people, is wearing the same uniform from that episode. So, it's all within the continuity that they had established with their own show. So, see, it's just that simple. So anyway, the story is that now they've got this cure. And it sounds like they're not going to need any asylums anymore, because whatever it is deals with the disorders that they suffer from. So there's a handful of people in this asylum. The Enterprise goes there, and they deliberately, because they're so dangerous, put them on this planet that it has a completely poisonous atmosphere. It's all this green smoke everywhere. You can't breathe out there. And so they're within this facility, and there's a protective force field around it, so you got to turn that off in order for Kirk and Spock to beam down. They do, but it's all a trap. This introduced the character of Garth of Izar. Now, Garth is one of these characters that's mentioned a lot, and of course this ultimately leads to the fan film project of the Battle of Axanar. And so Axanar was all about this story that's briefly mentioned here, that the Battle of Axanar was this great heroic moment for Captain Garth. And but since then he's fallen on hard times and suffered some severe injuries that drove him mad, and he almost committed genocide on a planet just because he felt they insulted him. And the crew mutinied, and he's been institutionalized ever since. But one of the things is his injuries were so bad, but this alien race taught him a method by which he could control his own cells or something like this. So he was able to cellular regenerate himself. But as a result of this, he now has the ability to shapeshift. This is all very fascinating, and I mean, there's a whole wealth of story there that someone who truly cared about Star Trek and was still obsessed with this prequel idea, that you could delve into these other offshoots with that, which I always thought a neat approach to a new Star Trek series would have been like Fargo and American Horror Story, where each season is you focus on a different element of Star Trek, and you could jump around through all different periods of time and all that sort of stuff, and even have cool aspects of set in the Kirk's era, but it's on a different ship, and you can even refer to something that happened with the Enterprise, and this ship is following up on it. Stuff like that. Even the Khan series could have been a season of that they talked about. But so Garth would be one. Of course, Axanar has already got the story about the battle, but there's other stories for Captain Garth and what happened to him. So there's this ability where you can shapeshift, and of course that's what he does, and he can make himself look like anybody, including the governor of this asylum. He tricks Kirk and Spock, and now they're prisoners. And basically, Garth wants to take the Enterprise. He assumes the form of Kirk, and he goes to this, hey, Scotty, beam me up. And he says, okay, but before they beam down, since they're going into this prison of dangerous individuals, Kirk decided to leave Scotty with a code, and they're the Queens to Queens level 3, I think it was. And you got to know what the response is. And well, Garth doesn't know. So he's damn it. And of course he loses his mind and all this stuff over it and everything. So now the rest of the show, and it's very simple. He's got to get on the ship, and once he takes that over, of course, how long would his master plan last? He's completely out of control, so he would not have been successful. But all the damage and destruction he could have wrought before he's taken down, would be terrible. But at this point, with just a simple code word, he's trapped. He can't do it. So now he's got to get Kirk to tell him what the code word is. So of course he's going to torture him, and that's what happens. He tortures others, and to try to force Kirk, and then eventually tortures him. All this stuff back and forth, and ultimately, of course, Kirk and Spock defeat him. But another great aspect of this show is Yvonne Craig, the Orion slave girl, which was introduced way back in the original pilot, but Susan Oliver established this alien species. And then, of course, in the original series, you didn't see it until they did the Menagerie 2-part episode. But nevertheless, that was all established. And so Yvonne Craig is playing another woman of that species, but she's completely nuts and in this facility. And she does a fantastic job in this. And I kind of, looking at it between her and Garth, is almost like a template for the Joker and Harley Quinn. It's kind of what that is. But anyway, I remember reading an interview. Yvonne Craig said they didn't have the makeup material that they had for Susan Oliver, and so this was a new form of it to paint her with. And the problem with it is that it was constantly just smearing right off. And if you look closely, you'll see there's some scenes where it's on Shatner's uniform and is part of his face and stuff. It was a problem, is he said that Shatner complained about it and all that. And of course, you don't want to see that because it destroys the illusion that it's her skin color, but it's not. And of course, it looked in some scenes they had her in green lighting, which made it look a lot better. But you couldn't do that all the time because then everybody would look green. But it's what they had to deal with. It's funny that whatever the makeup that they originally had, they lost it. No one around knew how to make it. I don't know. So that's, that was just the problem with it. But I do remember her telling a story. She was like, because she's got this seduction scene between her and Kirk. And she said, "Oh yeah, I can't touch him too much; it'll wipe off on him." So she says, "I know. I'll just run my hands through his hair." And someone saying, "You can't do that." She says, "Why not? It's a toupee." I mean, it was a pretty good one at the time, better than his later ones, but I suspect Shatner still had some of his own hair there, and you're able to just comb it into the hairpiece so it looked kind of good. But, yeah, you might knock it off if you do that, so, damn it. But, so they did it. She is touching his face and stuff, but I guess, they did it as brief as possible. But, boy, Yvonne Craig always, I have quite the soft spot for her when her days as Batgirl. That taught a young Doug that, yes, I am a heterosexual male. And just such a lovely woman, and didn't get enough roles, in my opinion. Just stunningly beautiful. And, of course, was a trained dancer, and so she dances in this episode and all that. And, yeah, I sure do miss her. But, so it's. I think it's all the way very good. Some people thought the guy playing Garth was over the top, but I mean he's not normal. He's completely, his brain is broken. I mean, so I don't know, but he's putting on an act that he's all superior and stuff when really he's all crumbling and devastated inside. And when the slightest moment he doesn't get his way, he collapses into a rage and throws a tantrum and all this stuff. I mean, towards the ending, Kirk, Garth was his hero. As he studied him in the Federation, and a lot of starship captains looked to him because he was just the all-time best Starfleet captain at that point. And it was all very sad to see what he had become. But he did horrible things in this, and he murders Yvonne Craig's character Marta. And right in front of Kirk, blows her up and all this stuff. And after all of that, they do defeat him. And they apply the cure to him. And so now he doesn't quite remember everything and doesn't, Kirk is still fond of him. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know that he would be after all that. It's like, yeah, I understand. It's not completely his fault because he was, a sick man, but still. That's pretty bad. So, yeah, it's a simple, not an on-the-ship episode, but it could have been. But it's all studio shot, and I think they handled it very well. And I don't think it deserves some of the criticisms I've seen about it. I think that's easily explained away. And it's a simple story. It's all about the code that he can't crack. He can't break Kirk. But so what? I think that's pretty good. And had Garth been a more formidable foe, but he's hindered by his mental illness. So Kirk defeats him. But that's the deal. It's obvious. So no, I think this is a fine episode, and Garth is a character that. The actual people who hold Star Trek should have looked at if they were going to be constantly obsessed with prequels and whatnot. But at this point, no, I don't want to see Secret Hideout and Kurtzman do anything with Captain Garth. So I guess it's Axanar, and that's it. Of course, they've been slammed by the court rulings and whatnot, so I don't know if that'll ever see fruition. But their little prelude documentary is a pretty cool little thing in and of itself. So, but yeah, it's a shame. There's tons of stuff throughout Star Trek within the classic series alone to farm and look for, especially if you're lacking in ideas. But they don't even know how to do that, and that's a damn shame. But whom gods destroy, they first make mad. Yes, that's what they do. But it's a great episode, I think. And so there we are. Another great endeavor into the world of classic Star Trek. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies. with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr. Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.